Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Homebrew Hall's something episode of Rehash the Rolls. Usually about in line with our however many ready to roll episodes we've had. As you can see, I am not Eric, aka the extraterrestrial. I am his little brother Adam, who plays Artyom on Ready to Roll. Artyom Sokolov, perhaps the greatest character on there, if I do say so myself. Joining me today is Patrick, the Dungeon Master, Ian, who plays Piotr, and Lydia, who plays Jelania. Thank you guys for joining me tonight and having me this evening as your host. Forgive me because since I'm not role playing, I'm going to be just Adam, and so I say things like and collect my thoughts, and there's just something about being in front of a camera without a character that kind of just a little confusing.
There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah, I can't hide behind the heroic exterior of RTM. So, welcome. It's been, how long have we been doing this at this point? Was our first session at the end of August or beginning of September?
I think it was in July.
August. No,
Well,
our first session was
August.
in.
Yeah, we had our session 0 with everybody in July.
Yeah.
So we've all been,
It was August, yeah.
everything leading up to Ready to Roll. It's been almost a year at this point, about 9 months.
Stop. That's crazy.
I mean, in actuality, it's literally been a year since me and Mike started planning Ready to Roll. It was several months before we actually got everything going. So it's been a year. Since Ready to Roll, the whole process of getting it started began.
That's true.
Hmm.
So let's jump straight into this then. So Patrick, been over a year for you. I know you and I talked a lot about, doing a stream. What was it that finally made you make the decision to pull the trigger and start Ready to Roll?
Well, I mean, it was shortly after, COVID began. I was bored out of my skull. I had just started streaming Dead by Daylight. And so I hadn't, in all actuality, I had tried to run a campaign in Anara before. That kind of sort of fell apart. If you've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for any amount of time, you are aware that campaigns oftentimes just fall apart after a few sessions. You've been playing any tabletop role-playing game, that's just what happens. So I really wanted to make a return to Anara because I really liked it. And so, but as I just started, I started streaming Dead by Daylight, and I, was talking with Mike, and I was like, I think and all I said to Mike was, I think it'd be fun to do a tabletop role-playing game stream. And Mike was like, so why don't you? You just started streaming on Dead by Daylight. Why don't you just do a tabletop role-playing stream? And I was like, well, I mean, because it'd been something we had been talking about for years, what we wanted to do. And I was just like, I don't know, just kind of want to make sure I get my feet on the ground first. And honestly, it was Mike pushing me to getting it started. He had me send him the lore for Inara, and he wanted to get so he read through everything, edited everything, and Inara went through actually several changes during that process. Originally Inara started off as a monotheistic world that it switched to polytheistic to better fit in line with most Dungeons and Dragons rulings. And so it was just honestly just the push from Mike is what made me decide to start actually put it out.
And so the reason why I ask is a lot of the as I was thinking today and trying to think up of my own questions to ask, I realized that something that we really haven't talked about for our viewers is kind of the formation of this super enjoyable project and stream and game that we've we've put together. So for those of you who don't know, we actually, even Ian and I, I'm Patrick's brother. Ian's one of Patrick's best friends. We had to go through a interview and selection process with Patrick and Mike in order to make certain we were going to be a good fit. And that actually leads us over to Lydia. So, Lydia, everybody knew Patrick to some extent or another. Obviously, I grew up with him. Ian is one of his best friends. Braden went to the same church in college with us, and then Luke worked with Patrick. How did you get brought into this project? Because before this, none of us had any idea who you were, except for Patrick. He met you at Mike's
And Ian.
And me
Ian
at a
Ian
weird
too.
random.
Have we ever talked about that on the stream before?
I don't think we
I
have.
don't think we have. Should we? I think now that it's been brought up. Yeah, because I think I've actually technically known Ian the longest, because Ian and I matched on Tinder in college.
ages ago.
Talked back and forth. I think we actually met in person one time. I feel like
I think so.
I remember meeting. It was like the top of the stairs down south of campus or something like that in the middle of the night.
Yeah, in a cul-de-sac or
I don't remember. I don't even remember
know.
why either.
I don't either. It's like it was like I remember hearing your name and I was like, why do I know that name? And to be honest, okay, so basically what happened was like we met or whatever and texted for a little bit, and then Facebook kept like suggesting you as a friend. So I knew who you were, more or less, like the name, and then at some point you got married, so your last name changed, and I was like, oh, I guess she got married, because you kept popping up in my friend suggestions every like clockwork. And so it was this weird thing that like I was always keeping like these like periphery tabs on you, and then I heard that name.
Low key stalking me.
Kind of creepy.
I was like, I know that, like just seeing the picture and like having this like background kind of thing going on. Anyway, and then I was like, who? Oh, and then like a switch flipped, and I remembered like the whole like that whole like week or whatever, and I was like, oh, this is funny, because like my life is filled with these weird things that happen. And at least you haven't like tried to kill me or kidnap me.
Yeah,
So.
I think it was because this came up in session 0. I think that you mentioned this, and I had like the name didn't ring a bell for me at all until you said that, and then I was like, oh wait, no, I remember this for sure. Yeah. So yeah, Ian and I have definitely known each other the longest. Definitely. Patrick and I technically met at Mike's wedding, because you were the best man and I was the matron of honor. So we're in like pictures together. I don't think we ever actually talked, because I was grumpy.
Oh.
I was a
Yeah,
grumpy pregnant lady, and I hated everything.
And you weren't, and Nick wasn't there, and so you were.
He was. Yeah, he was
he
there.
was? Oh.
Yeah. That was like, he
yeah.
had come back because he was living in Pennsylvania and I was
That's right.
still finishing up school in Utah, and he had a conference just by chance in Salt Lake that week, and we went out to the wedding when it was done. And so I was like, I had been a single pregnant mom going to school all by myself for several weeks, and then my husband comes in to rescue me, and then we drove for 12 hours to go to a wedding.
You were quite. I remember seeing you. I was like, man, she looks really grumpy right now. But
I started off with a really great impression for the group, for sure. But I think what actually happened to like get me into it was when COVID hit, I was like, oh my gosh, I hate everything. I need to do things with people. So I like posted on my Facebook. I was like, hey, if there's any people who want to do one-shots with me, let me know. And Mike responded. And so he and his wife were in a one-shot that I ran a little bit over a year ago now. So he was aware that I was into D&D. I think he even knew that I was streaming. And so he reached out to me to be like, hey, you should audition, interview, apply for this thing. So that's how that happened.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I told my mom the other day, it's because I did really badly in school. Because like that set up a whole chain of events. Like that's how I know Chalet, and how we all got to like, yeah. I was a bad student. So lesson for everyone still in school, do bad. And
Oh.
it'll teach you a lot.
Don't listen, kid. Don't
Too
listen.
good, and you'll have to be the
Just don't write that down. Don't
uh,
write that down. All right, so we have 2 of 3 of our guests' backstories, so to speak. So
Mhm.
Ian, fill us in a little bit about you. So Ian and I also have a very interesting story.
Oh, did
So
you
at the
match on
time-
Tinder as well?
Yes. No. So at the time, I had just started going to UVU. Patrick and Ian were fairly fresh, returning from a church proselyting mission, and Ian had come over and he had made some connection with Patrick that I was present for, and I think he was hanging out with us, and I just gone back in our room and doing homework or something, and then disappeared for months. But for some reason, when I was walking around at UVU, I would notice Ian walking around, and Ian's got a very distinctive, walk. And so I kept noticing him. I was like, who's this guy? And why do I keep recognizing him? And then one day I come home and he's in my house. And I was like, why is this weird dude I keep seeing at school in my house? And Patrick's like, oh yeah, this is my buddy Ian. And I was like, substantially less weird. But, so, Ian, what brought you into Dungeons and Dragons? Besides Patrick, obviously.
So Dungeons and Dragons in general, I guess we'll start there. My life is just an eclectic amalgamation of the most random things.
Oh, I know.
I was in a band once. We're on Spotify. I did. I trained for a half marathon once, which I need to start doing again. And anyway, just a lot of things. I'm just like, oh, and now I'll play video games, and now I'll do this, and now I'll do this. And D&D was one of those things, mainly through Patrick and you and the rest of that crew. And I've enjoyed it. And then obviously with time heard about. Honestly, this is kind of how my brain works. I have ADHD, and so things will come up, and I'll be like, that is the best idea, and I need to devote at least all of my attention for the next 15 seconds at a minimum to it. And that was enough to get me hooked into this project. And honestly, it's been fun. A little bit of clout chasing, a little bit of, trying to ride Patrick's wave.
A little bit.
Gotcha. Yeah, so, and then I guess a little bit of my backstory. Obviously, I grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons with Patrick. I have a very distinct memory of playing 4th edition where, because of the ways the rules work as a paladin, I literally shouted goblins to death, and it was hilarious. My dad and my oldest brother Eric played. Well, my dad played original Dungeons and Dragons in college. My dad and my oldest brother Eric, who's our usual host, played AD&D. I know Eric did 3.5, I do believe. And then here we are, 5th edition, having a grand old time.
Complete nerds.
All right. Yeah, well, hey. You know what they said? You know what they said in my high school growing up? Be nice to the nerds, because one of these days they're going to be your boss. So. All right, so now that we have some character backstory out of the way, and by characters I mean real people, I guess we'll start actually doing the questions that everybody came here for. So our first question is for everybody. Anybody can answer. It says, for all, yes or no, do you have backup characters prepared for when or if Morpheus makes his triumphant and glorious return? From Anonymous Silver Face.
Yeah, that's a question that kept from last time.
Oh.
Yeah, that was one that was last time. For me personally, no. I never make a backup character because my favorite character is always the one that I have most recently made and put effort into. And so if I make a new character, if I think of a new character, I will want the other one to die. And I can't do it. I have to put in very little effort into characters that I make as a DM or anything else because I don't want to love them too much. I have to be okay with them, you know, being nothing so that Anya can continue to be real.
Gotcha. What about you, Ian?
I never think that far into the future. I actually me, Adam, Patrick, and Mike, I think is technically in the campaign, are in another campaign right now. And I was surprised because like towards the end of our last kind of off-stream campaign, I was like, wow, I've got an idea for a character. And that character is unfolding right now in a campaign. And that's the first time I've ever thought, well, no, actually, Piotr, I don't know. I put a pretty decent amount of thought into Piotr, and I put thought
I
into.
sat you down and made you put some thought into
Listen, Patrick.
The thought was given, though.
It's there. But all that is to say, in a very roundabout way, no. Not yet.
In Ian's defense, actually, all of Ian's characters have generally been, in all the campaigns I've played with him, most interesting. Like, he's always been the one who's come to the table with a very interesting concept, even if it's a concept he came up with like 5 minutes ago.
Except Liam.
Except Liam, but that's because he wasn't able to play the character he wanted to play because someone else had already taken it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Patrick and I were in a campaign as well, like off screen, and my character in that I have avoided putting in any effort into her because of my whole thing of like, if I put in too much effort, I will love her more, and I will care about her more, and then everything about Anya will just become gray and lame.
And also considering it's a mini campaign, so it might not go longer than like 5 sessions.
Also considering Eric kills everybody all the time. Like, there's no reason to care about her because she's going to be dead anyway very soon.
Yeah, Eric and Patrick have very different dungeon mastering styles, but both very entertaining to play. I guess I can answer this question too. No, I don't actually ever really think of other characters.
Because it's cheating death.
That too. So oh man, I am literally the greatest at throwing off my dungeon master's plans. It doesn't matter who it is. Eric, Patrick, I totally just threw off Lydia's plans last Saturday in Eldritch Noir by just killing a major bad guy right off the bat. Yeah. But I'm also very good at just escaping by the skin of my teeth, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, I don't have any. There's one person I know who probably has like 9,000 though. That's Mike.
Yeah, he said so last time that he had a bunch.
Mike has one character pretty much rolled up already in case Cadillac dies. He's just waiting for the
and I'm pretty sure in every campaign I've ever played with Mike has died. Mike's character has died.
Sometimes twice.
At least once. I think the last one he was on his third character. I have only had a character die once, at least permanently. I think, did Tim get resurrected?
I thought Tim became immortal.
He did, but
no, Tim didn't get resurrected.
Yeah, because he died in hell.
Oh yeah, he did die in hell.
That was a wild ride. I've never had a character die.
Especially not in hell.
I have to remedy that.
No. If you have to have it happen, have Eric do it, okay? Because otherwise it's gonna throw off your whole like bonded souls or whatever. Like, it's gonna be a problem.
So this conversation about characters and new leads us to our next question. This one is particularly for Patrick. This is from Flamel. And he says, what is your encounter/difficulty philosophy? How frequently would PCs die in your ideal campaign? And do you have any concerns about resource management?
Alright, so my philosophy is I care more about telling a good story than I care about
body count?
Following the body count following the... As I know there's And it was really weird. I've been DMing for nigh on 2 decades at this point. Closer to like 15 years or so. But like, I and it wasn't until yesterday that I'd heard the term daily XP budget. I was scrolling through the DM Academy subreddit and I saw someone talk about daily XP budget, and I said, "What the heck is daily XP budget?" And I went and looked it up. So that should tell you a little bit about how I run encounters. I kind of like if I will look for example if I decide that I want the party fighting goblins at 20th level, I'll just buff the goblins because that's who I want the bad guys to be at the time. Or if I want the party to be fighting a demon and they're only like 5th level, I'll just nerf the demon's hit points or something. Because that's just how I run games. In my opinion, I'd rather care a bit more about what story is being told rather than the fact that the monster's guide says I should only be they should be facing these things at certain levels. And so most of my creatures are actually homebrewed, and I make a lot of adjustments on the fly for the encounter because I don't want. I had an experience a few years ago. We were visiting my family for Christmas, and my dad asked me to run a one-shot for them. And at the end of the one-shot, my dad looked at me and said, "You wouldn't hurt a fly in your D&D campaigns, would you?" And it kind of hurt. And so I have made my encounters vastly more difficult. I think, in my opinion, what I like to do is try to knock at least one person down per fight, because I feel like if I'm knocking down at least one person down in a fight, then I'm doing good. And for boss fights, I try to go for a little bit more. But like in a normal campaign, I prefer to run like sessions where it's like where you have several encounters leading up to answer the resource management part of the question, several encounters leading up to the big boss fight. So that way the players have had to expend some of their resources. The best example of what would have been a usual encounter for me would have been when they were in Ermog in the Mosaic fight that we had, several months back. It wasn't until, but then with Ready to Roll, since we're definitely being way more RP and storytelling focused, I just make sure that I up the difficulty of the encounters so that way even when people are pulling out all their big things that it's still a challenging fight. I hope that answers your question sufficiently.
It's not my question, but
I have a question.
We can ask it.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ian.
Was the Mosaic episode really months ago?
Yeah, that was episode 11, episode 12.
Yeah.
We're at 18 now.
Oh, that makes, I don't know. When you put it in numbers, it doesn't seem as long ago, but it's still 2 months.
2.5, 3 months ago.
But yeah, 2 months.
Like,
yeah,
it doesn't feel like it's been months
that long.
Almost that half a year since we started playing. So
yeah, very true.
All right. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Patrick and I think one thing that would actually be interesting at some point is maybe we should sit Patrick, Lydia, and Eric down and have a conversation about the different DMing styles. But yeah, Patrick and I have talked about this dynamic of rebalancing creatures and encounters based on your character's power levels. That way they can fight whatever they want. That way, you're not like, oh, you're 20th level, and not that we've ever gotten that high. You're stuck fighting a Tarask or something. But
and in my opinion, I would, if I could get a party that was content with it, I would like to get a party that got to about 10th level and just sat at 10th level, because I think 10th level is the perfect power level for the type of stories I like to run. But don't worry, the characters in Ready to Roll will get higher than 10th level.
Aw, darn.
I don't know. I like being able to throw crazy spells all over the place.
As long as we have access to like resurrection magic, I'm fine.
I'm a cleric. That's what I'm gonna, part of what I
Yeah,
do.
that's why we need to get to at least the point where you can resurrect people if they go down. Revivify is not good enough.
Well, I tried, okay? It's not my fault I couldn't save yourself. So Patrick mentioned that we're very RP and story heavy, and so we've got a couple questions here for Lydia and Ian. We're gonna go ahead and we'll start with Ian, because I went Patrick, Lydia, Ian. I guess I'm just gonna flip it around. So Ian, one of the big questions, and this has actually been something that's on my mind as well. So the question is, while the party accepted or brushed off, depending on who they are, Piotr's confession of murder, you monster, it is clear it still troubles him. Does he feel a need to resolve or re-examine his actions, or does the complacency of his friends hold him back? Hold up, complacent? I'm not complacent. I just haven't gotten the chance to rebuke him yet. I mean,
It's been literal in-game months at this point. That was something that he told us like a week and a half in. It's been like 2 months since that point. We're just like, oh yeah, I don't care. Whatever, you killed somebody. That's fine.
I've been too busy trying to repair on your self-esteem and rebuke Corbin, okay? 2 people in mind.
We're running triage here, okay? Everybody's got their crap.
But like seriously, like no one's brought it up to him. Anya legitimately doesn't care.
This was Lydia's question, by the way.
Yeah, I'm so curious.
Lydia's like throwing daggers. She's like, I want to know why everyone's morality sucks.
Lydia plays the most morally ambiguous character out of all of you.
Sorry, what was the question? Before, so I make sure that I actually respond.
Does like the fact that none of us seem to care make him more likely to just ignore it and move on, or is he still, because he's, he had the dream and everything, like he still feels guilty? He's motivated to do anything about it, find out what happened?
He knows what happened. Let's be clear there.
Or like find out what the fallout is and like what the results are and everything, because you got nabbed like the next day, right?
He what? Oh yeah, like we got
teleported.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Dream
happened.
napped.
Yeah. Divinely kidnapped. Yeah, so that is something that is actively on Piotr's mind. We are... Yeah, I have ideas. For... Actually, I'm just starting to have an idea of what I want the end of that arc to look like.
You don't have this choice.
Brave words
no,
in front of the DM.
You're welcome to tell me what you would ideally like to happen. I make no promises.
But I think you'll probably agree with me.
I probably will approve. You generally have good ideas, but I'm just informing you. I kind of already know how that arc's going to end.
And that's all I'll say, because
spoilers
and such. But I mean, end of the day, Piotr sees this as an internal struggle and journey that he's on. So not having outside pressure for him is great. If that answers the question.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you needed it, too bad. It doesn't seem like it's coming.
Like, well, guess they don't care about murders.
Yeah. Guess not.
But yeah, I think we've got some interesting things in store on how to portray some of that as well.
Yeah. So in connection with Piotr, so Lydia, Jelania just recently gave her sister's journal to Piotr, which is, for her, at least to me, in my opinion, that would be like a family. I won't want to hang on to this, right? Your sister just died. Everybody, your whole family except for your brother has been murdered, and your brother's been made blind. By the way, if you're watching and you haven't watched the episodes, guess what?
Spoilers.
Early on in the series, back in episode 4, Z stated, if I'd been given the opportunity to know what happened to my family, I'd take it, no matter how bad it was. And you and I actually talked about this. You know, you said that it's kind of ironic given the fact that she just gave away her sister's journal. Besides the obvious, like, trauma of her sister dying, like, what was the thought process behind having her change her mind?
So Anya's a kid still, right? Like, she's very young. She's 19. She's gonna say a lot of stuff that she doesn't have any idea what she's saying. And she's still very much in the process of developing as a person and finding a actual moral stance of any sort. And this is actually something that is going to be an issue for her. She didn't feel... It wasn't an easy choice. It wasn't something she did like right when she got it. She's like, oh, I know I don't want to deal with this or anything. It was something that she dwelt on and like thought about and, you know, realized like she couldn't handle it, or because if she opened it up and like read something, it's like, oh, I'm really glad that Anya died. I hated her all along. Like, that would be so painful for her to read and know about her sister who she loves more than anything else. So it's not something that she did simply. She's also definitely going to get it back when she can. It's not for Piotr to keep, for sure. But she also kind of wanted to preserve the image of Svetla being who she was, as like really good, really loving, really good person. And she knew that if Piotr found anything other than that in the book, he wasn't going to spread it around. Like, he knows how to deal with nobles, like,
Ew.
Public relations and, you know, their public facing selves and their private selves and everything like that. So it will definitely be a thing later, for sure. She's very disappointed in herself for not being able to handle that.
Gotcha. Okay. Hang on, I am making certain that I take that off of my list so I don't ask it again. Alright. So, trucking right along. In regards to players and their actions and the choices they have made, this one's going to be for Patrick. But I guess it could be for everyone as well. So, this is another one that Flamel asked. He said, what's the most unexpected things the PCs have done in the last couple sessions? If it does not spoil anything, how did you expect things to go? Let's be fair, I personally haven't really done anything crazy, even though that's kind of my shtick.
Most unexpected thing done in the last few sessions?
Well, a few sessions we've had have been very much like downtime conversation sessions, not like crazy action.
Past few sessions, yeah, there haven't been a lot of crazy curveballs thrown from left field. Not for me, at least. Clearly, there's something that Ian wasn't expecting.
No. So when Piotr and Artyom kind of were like, "Oh, Anya's about to kill that lady that is technically our prisoner?" Question mark.
Yes.
I feel like at least a lot of the players were like, "Huh." So I guess that was. I thought that was.
That was definitely a half for me, because like just a couple of games before, I like stabbed a priest through the back of the hand and been like, I will freaking kill you. And now they're just taking issue with like a person who is kind of already dead, but you know.
I will say though, however, tepidly, Piotr did try to put a stop to the priest thing, at least, or at least to tone it back.
No, stop! Please don't do that. I'm begging you.
Oh
please.
no!
They're like,
oh no!
Like,
okay.
Guys, no, and then they're like, why? Like,
Yeah, just like, I'm sure we all have the same goals. No, we don't. Stop. Piotr, he's evil.
Let's be fair, the evil priest kind of like CIA cyanide pilled himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Kill him.
Good choice.
and to give more, I guess, context for that interaction, Piotr was more trying to manipulate the priest to make sure that they had gotten everything out of him at that point. that didn't work. But and to specifically, I guess, unless somebody else has something that I'm derailing right now, um, about like the whole beach incident. As far as Piotr's concerned, like matters of like warfare entail like a different kind of or code of chivalry and yeah, I guess just chivalry as far as that's concerned. So like, I mean, yeah, I guess that's my thought. That is the end of my train of thought.
Yeah,
We've
was
reached the
probably-
station.
I've had a little bit to sit and think about it. The two actions that surprised me the most were when Corvid and Artyom refused to become the champions of Cordovan, honestly.
yeah.
I know why they did it, but it was just kind of one of those things where it's like, in my mind, it was okay, this is signifying that you have moved on to the next stage of being heroes. Like, in 4th edition, they had these tiers of what type of hero you were. So there was hero, which was 1 to 5, and then after that it was or 1 to 10. I don't remember exactly. Then after that it was Paragon, and then after that it was Legends, and or something along those lines. So to me, it was just like, okay, you're now the champions of Cordovan. You're moving on to the next stage of your adventure. That for me, that was just a purely ceremonial thing of, hey, this is what. And then Corvid and Artyom out of nowhere just like, nah, bruh, we're just gonna be normal dude.
That's not what I said at all.
Not what you said at all. But that came out of left field for me, and I was just like, oh, okay. As I wasn't expecting anyone to turn it down, because in my mind we were all on the same page of this, like, we're just moving on to the next stage of adventure. It didn't occur to me that there were actually, you guys were gonna have actual like role playing, storytelling implications, which is fine. There are good now storytelling implications. It worked out very well. It was a good thing, but that was probably the most unexpected thing that happened in the last few sessions.
And to me, when that happened, I was like, wait, because I hadn't thought about it. It was like, yeah, sure, I'll do the thing or whatever. And I was like, wait, is this something that like should Piotr be weighing like the ethical like calculus of this action at all? Like, oh no. So yeah, good on you. You made me rethink a thing that I had already done.
Yeah, no, it's definitely got some repercussions for Anya for sure. The beach stuff as well, also very actual, extremely impactful stuff. That kind of threw me a curveball without me realizing it. It was like near the end of that game where I was just like, oh no, oh dear. I don't know if I should go into it because I feel like it'll probably come up in the game. But like, she now has some serious doubts about certain people in the group.
Sorry, just really quick, you guys say the beach, that episode on the beach. Sorry, it makes me think
Beach episode.
Playing volleyball in the sand.
I was like, no, it makes me think about, so in animes, there's the traditional beach episode where all the characters go to the beach and they are in their it's the fan service there, all the girls are in their swimsuits and things like that, and they're just goofing up on the beach. It's just it's one of the traditional filler anime episodes. And so every time you guys have said it, ever since then, every time you guys have said beach, it's like ready to roll. Instead of having the Artyom in his swimsuit, we have murdering Viking-esque people on beaches.
Bathing in the blood of their enemies. Rubbing it up.
It makes me laugh. It's
Fire and sweat and seawater.
In an attempt to maintain the PG-13 environment, let's be fair. Have you seen the character art? Like, Artyom would be a guy that you probably wouldn't mind watching walk down the beach. Anyway,
that's just a thought that occurred to me.
Thank you, Lizzie, for putting that all in our minds. Giving us that gift of all these very attractive characters.
Oh man. All right. Boy, which question to ask next?
Where do we go?
I think I'm gonna throw this curveball one at Lydia actually. So I might actually just stick these two together depending on your answers. But so this is one that I came up with, and it's part of my own interest. So, and then also Patrick and Ian want to jump in at any point, but RTM has had some deep conversation with Zelania. but has ducked pretty much everything she has attempted in return. How does he feel about that, and does she intend to try and turn the tables?
So it's not gone unnoticed for sure, but it is kind of... It's not surprising to her, because all of her experiences with people in the church is like, hey, you need to fix yourself, I'm fine. That's very much a thing that she has experienced, of like people preaching things that they don't follow themselves. And so that's something where it's just kind of reinforcing that, like, oh yeah, he's a priest. Yeah, okay. That's just what he does. Fine. And
But
she doesn't know whether or not she can get him to realize it, you know.
But in their last conversation, he opened up quite a bit.
Yes.
Did that change her opinion at all, or is she still just like, oh, he's a stupid priest?
No, that did change it a little bit. Of like, I mentioned this actually to Nick afterwards, of like, she can now kind of see him as a person separate from his station a little bit. A little bit. But the fact that he immediately went back to wearing the blindfold when he's like made this whole thing of like, I'm gonna be good, it's just like, okay, great job.
Wow. So I guess that actually gives me a little bit of a chance for myself to address that. So the blindfold actually plays a much deeper part into his story than has come out. And I know Patrick has commented on feeling like RTM's story is taking a little longer than it should. But at the same time, Patrick knows the importance of the blindfold and everything that it entails, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, but there really hasn't been anything that has really led up to an appropriate reveal, and it would kind of like make it kind of meh. I mean, at least in my opinion, since there really isn't anything that like, oh, okay, this would be a great time to finish elaborating on the blindfold.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, that's the seal of improvement from approval from
fair.
Patrick.
That's a seal of
Fair.
approval. Him saying fair. Sure.
100%.
Solid 7 out of 10.
And so the other question asked by Flamel that has to do with RTM and Jelania is, what's the deal with RTM and Jelania? Sometimes they seem like they hate each other, sometimes it seems like they care for each other, and sometimes it seems like either could have some kind of unrequited love. Your turn first.
Oh, thanks.
Ladies first.
So, Anya has only recently, well, no, not recently, I guess, when he walked off and was like, oh, I'm out of here, I'm leaving. After that conversation that they had, when she went to go and find him, wasn't she was like, okay, I am going to try to be nice to this person. I hate this person, they are so annoying, but I'm going to try to be nice to this person. And it's definitely difficult because it's very easy to slip into that habit of just like, oh my gosh, this guy is the worst. He's a priest and I hate priests. And, you know, he represents all these things that have caused me so much pain in my life and like essentially kind of ruined my family, you know? So she does have to consistently remind herself to be nice. Like I said, she's kind of now getting to this point where she's seeing him as a person separate from his office, as RTM, instead of just, you know, this clergyman. That's kind of where it is, really. She doesn't, for being a noble, she is not a self-indulgent person. She is a very self-negligent, self-denying person. She does not allow herself to want things. She does not allow herself to care about things, because what's the point, you know? So that's kind of where it's at.
Yeah, okay. So okay. I guess for me to answer that question on my half, one of the things that drives RTM the most crazy, but he likes the most about Anya is the challenge to his, his uh perceptions and his preconceived notions and things. Um, and between her and Corvette, there's kind of the paradigm shift, the change, because I was gonna say that and change. The paradigm shift in his view of nobles. Okay, maybe all of these guys, not all of these guys are bad. But at the same time, it's like, so I've mentioned that Artyom has grown up on the streets, and to him, it kind of brings him back to where he started, right? He always had a big heart, and oftentimes it led to him getting, in my mind, it led to him getting stabbed in the back. And so seeing Anya is once again seeing someone that he wants to be able to care and protect and care for and protect, and he knows that he can tell there's a lot more there than is coming out. And then so that's part of his drive for trying to be there for her. And I mean, I would say that he's probably got feelings for her. To what extent us as players haven't necessarily decided if we want to take that anywhere, where we want to take that. But
I intentionally
especially,
avoid those conversations with you.
yeah.
I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but I intentionally don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want it to become a scripted thing. I want it to be very organic and feel normal.
No, same. Yeah, I don't want to be like, yeah, no, same. So yeah, I hope that answers your question sufficiently, in that we can keep you on your toes with the will they, won't they kind of thing.
I will say, Anya is aware that she has a slight crush on Corvette. She will do nothing about it because because she's not that type of person. Because seriously, what's the point? She's probably gonna die, and if she doesn't, then Vitaly will find her someone to marry, and that'll be it. So why bother? It's such a sad thing.
Are you gonna be shocked with revelations in the future? Ian. So another question that has to pertain with Jelania. So how did Pyotr feel being entrusted with Svetla's journal?
He was surprised. He, and I guess honored. I don't know if that's the right word. But it was warm and it was fuzzy, kind of.
Oh.
Because Piotr sees himself, particularly since the walkout incident, as someone who is capable of making connections with others, and has felt, slash kind of because Ian has felt, but has felt kind of at a loss with how to make more of a connection with Anya specifically. So he was like, "Oh, okay, I guess we're friends. That's cool." So yeah, I guess it was a surprise to him, a pleasant surprise.
Gotcha. Okay. So another question. Well, I guess where did it go? I lost it. Oh, I must have already cleared that one off. So another question pertaining to that. So while Jelania never mentioned it to Pyotr, how do you think he would feel if he knew Svetla thought about Vinhelm when prompted about the sacrifices?
Sorry, say that again.
While Jelania never mentioned it to Pyotr, how would he feel if he knew Svetla thought about Vinhelm when prompted about the sacrifices? So when she was reading her thoughts in the battle, and then so I'm assuming that's what that means when she asked about was it Corvid or was it Jelania? I can't remember.
No, someone asked what the sacrifices were or something, and she thought about Wilhelm.
Okay, so it was you who was reading her thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So when that was the thought that came to her mind, and I'm guessing Wilhelm has a connection to Piotr.
Yeah, that's where he's from. That's where he's told us the people he's worked with.
I can't. So
I totally knew that.
I only remember this because I've been watching like all the episodes a million times. It's only been brought up like once or twice.
And maybe it's just because I don't speak English or something. For whatever reason, that some synapse or two synapses in my brain are not connecting correctly.
But like,
so sorry, what exactly was it about Wilhelm that she had thought about?
So the sacrifices are connected to Wilhelm somehow in her mind. So I'm guessing it's like is Piotr worried? Does he think the sacrifices like would if And since Anya, I don't think you ever shared it with anybody. So Piotr
I feel like that's more of a dumb Lydia moment. I feel like Anya probably would have told people, but it just never. I had so many things that I needed to tell people the next game that I totally forgot.
I mean,
the puppet master has failed the rest of us.
So I mean, and obviously, there's not a whole lot of specificity there, but when you're talking about something as nefarious as freaking blood oath sacrifices, that can't be good. And Wilhelm is, in a lot of ways, I mean, Wilhelm for Piotr has been the scene of like not only basically where he became a man, where he became a professional adult, but it's also where a lot of, namely one other very important thing that has colored his life in an unalterable potential. Well, I guess we'll find out, but in a very significant way, had murder occurred. So it's a place with a lot of emotion as far as Piotr is concerned, but it's also a place that's near and dear to his home. And after having just had to having what I can't talk after just having had to resort to violence in relation to all of these things, it would be stressful, to say the least.
I have to say, I think it probably would have come up because there was Anya wrote a bunch of letters and specifically wanted to send letters to Wilhelm and specifically got Piotr to help her with that. I feel like, because I'm dumb, that it probably would have come up at that point. Why are you writing letters to my old boss? No reason. No reason at all.
That's true. I guess Piotr could have asked that, hint, nudge, Ian. But
maybe we can retcon that and say we did. When it never did.
Yeah, totally happened.
Or you can have the conversation in the next session because it'd be interesting to watch.
Yeah, that's true. We could do that.
Yeah.
For me, the way it's so, being in this situation where, we're playing a character and we literally know practically everything. It's hard to synthesize sometimes or distinguish between what I know and what Piotr knows. And so I'm just this is just information that's in my brain hole. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a struggle sometimes.
We have a lot of one-on-one conversations,
Yeah.
Really hard to know who knows what when we all know everything.
Yeah. So we're gonna switch gears a little bit because I feel like Patrick's probably feeling left out. We got a couple questions for our dungeon master that he may or may not be able to answer. So the one that deals with events more recently is, so why exactly was Vitaly special? what was special about him? I mean, obviously he can see the future somehow, is at least what I'm guessing. Is he still special, or did he lose his abilities when he lost his eyes and his sight?
So, how to answer this without being all spoilery? So Vitali is special. Vitali has a very important role to play. Gold, the color gold, is considered the sacred color of the Silhanan religion. And hence why Asamar's eyes flash gold, not flash, are gold, unless magic is used to alter them in, like, Tian's case. And so the fact that Vitali's eyes flashed gold before he told you to go stop the sacrifice isn't coincidence.
Right. Like, is he an Azamar tiefling, or is he something else?
He's not an Asamar tiefling.
Oh, good.
He is just a tiefling who happens to have some special powers.
Contact lenses.
It's yet to be seen whether his powers remain after his eyes have been taken out. The reason, though, his eyes were taken out in the rituals we've talked about a little before was the symbolic blinding of a leader to the suffering of his people, and to because when we talk about leaders and their necessity for vision, and clearly we're not talking about their ability to see. We have some pretty old people in leadership sometimes. They can't have the greatest eyesight. Instead we're talking about their ability to lead and in that sense of vision. And so Vital, the whole thing of having to of blinding Vitali, not only physically but also symbolically leading up to the sacrifice, was very important. If Vitali had his clarity and been able to lead Cordovan properly, he would not have been a worthy sacrifice. Hence why Vitali was the one who was the sacrifice and not Vitali's father, because Vitali's the old Baron Katankov was a good leader of Cordovan. He might not have necessarily always been the greatest person or whatever, but he was a good leader.
What are you talking about? Great
There's
dude.
There's no doubt about that.
So that's actually an interesting point. So that's something that Artyom pointed out to Lydia. I pointed out to Lydia. Artyom pointed out to Jelania is that a lot of times nobles suck. Like, they're very much
You're talking about
in his jaded view, but they're very, a lot of times and in all sorts of different stories, in human history and in fiction and things is where I'm drawing that kind of inspiration for his feelings towards them. But so does Anya actually think that her nobles and her father and everything are the greatest things since sliced bread, and she's never seen anything wrong there? Or is she denying it because she's recently lost everything?
So the people that were the worst and meanest to her in her life were A, church members, and B, the other nobles. She knows that nobles are mean people. They're not cool. But it's kind of like everyone's terrible. If you took someone off the street and made them a noble, they would do no better. My dad was really good at what he did. He was able to do a lot of stuff. Does it matter that he wasn't skipping around giving everybody lollipops? That's dumb. It's not going to help you. That very pragmatic, you need to do what needs to get done. And that's justification. That's fine. No one is great. No one is a good person.
Wow, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Not you.
All
not
of her
you,
friends suck.
Not you.
There's no such thing as lawful good.
Even you, viewers, she's saying that you're not very good either.
Yes, all you in the chat, everybody watching on YouTube, listening to this as a podcast later, y'all suck. I love you. But no one here is good. Everybody's terrible.
Okay.
Part of
Alright,
that is
on
from what her
note.
dad specifically like taught them all growing up. He is a major player in the formation of her worldview.
Gotcha. So, speaking of fathers, and this is to everybody. Do y'all, and you're gonna have to fill me in on this. So my internet freaked out for about the last hour of last session. So if you watch the VOD on YouTube, I'm literally just kind of sitting there like this the whole time. Do you expect Radmir and Renov, who I'm thinking Radmir is the father and Renov is the brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you expect Radmir and Renov to survive and be reunited with their family and Drith? I don't know. I don't know what our plan is. I know there was one, but I don't know what's happening.
You just watch that last hour. Because it's a mess.
It's because I wasn't there.
What do you think, Ian?
I'm always hopeful, but Patrick has explicitly said that this is going to be a dark campaign. Ergo,
He also specifically was like, man, I really hope it works out. About this specifically.
so
I'll let Ian finish, then I'll give my thought on the whole thing.
I'm just verbal vomiting at this point. Basically, I'm just tempering my expectations.
As a DM, whenever you're telling a story, as I've done for a long time now at this point, you always have your hopes. You always have the way you hope that the story you're telling is going to go. And to this point, the story has gone pretty much tick for tick how I thought it's going to go.
I need to fix that.
And so you always have the way you hope it's going to go, but then you also have the way you expect it to go. So we'll see whether what I hope happens next week or whether what I expect happens next week. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I will say, I don't really know either way. I expect it to work out well. Probably. But, there's always the chance that something terrible could happen. I will say, if it all works out perfectly and we see Drith's perfect family with his new mommy and his dad and his brother and sister, and they're all so amazing and love him so much, Anya's gonna be really sad about that. Like, happy for Drith, but also like, my family is all dead.
Oh, okay. It's like,
Yeah.
wow.
It'll be like,
True
oh
happy
man.
family.
No, it'll be like, man, I wish that I could have what Drith has. I'm happy for him, but I'm sad for me, sort of thing. She'll probably be very quiet about it, though.
I can think of at least one other character who probably will have similar feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Or, Drith's father could totally end up being a loser, and then Kadiak and Artyom will want to light him on fire, too.
He's gonna be a
I was
total
gonna
nerd.
say, just remind me, who was it that lit him on fire?
His
Was it not his
stepdad.
father?
Stepdad.
Oh,
He's never met his real
I was
dad.
like, don't we hate it? Oh yeah, that's right.
No, yeah, his real dad is like, oh, I still totally love your mom. I would have gone back to see you, but like the church wouldn't let me because the church totally jerks. Oh man, but I love you so much.
So he says.
I
So
feel
the
that's
mom
what
says, yeah.
Every like drunken absentee
Absentee
father. I totally listen. Your mom she just nobody like the cops won't let me on your street. I don't.
Wow.
That's not personal experience. Okay. No,
A restraining order is a restraining order. I can't do anything about it.
Sorry.
Well, I meant there's the fact that Kadiak and Artyom are planning on marching themselves down to the elven continent and burning and pillaging to punish them for how they treated Drith.
It's like such a funny thing for Artyom to do. Just no, don't kill that one evil raider, but those elves were mean. I'm gonna kill them all.
We will be as whether Patrick or not. Patrick allows Artyom and Kadiak to carry out their crusade of vengeance.
Whether
Maybe
or
that'll
not
be a
anyone
one
else
shot
will
after the
too.
campaign ends.
No, I feel
General-
like hopefully Drith will have something to say about that. Of like, please don't do that.
Stand aside, boy. You don't know what you're talking about.
Maybe Drith will have a backbone enough by the end of the campaign.
I actually think that Anya would say something about it, because especially the perceived hypocrisy of that, she'd be like, what are you doing?
I was gonna kill someone and you didn't let me, so
No, the whole like, oh, I want to be good and like help the whole world, but you're gonna go like murder a whole bunch of people?
Yes.
Wow. Good job, Angel Boy. I'm proud of you and your wonderful decisions.
Start a war. Let's do that.
Hey man, you don't know.
it's gonna be ready to roll. And what's the name of this one shot? Artyom and Drith accompany General Sherman's march to the sea. Google it.
Yes.
General Artyom's march to the sea.
The Civil War
Yeah, there
history
we go.
on y'all. If you don't know what that is, look it up.
So that's what
Yeah.
the next campaign will be. The next campaign will be
An
you
evil
guys-
campaign, and we're
just
just gonna do
use an
that.
account.
The part of the elves trying to prevent Artyom from burning down their home.
Level 20
Or-
light cleric, just brah.
Never changes.
Oh, boy. Do we have any other good questions?
So speaking of homes,
Because I feel like I'm going crazy.
we only have just a few left.
Oh, just a few.
So speaking of homes, Lydia, how does Z feel about the state they left her hometown in? Can you tell us anything about her thoughts on the help Vitaly asked for?
The
What
help
help?
Vitaly asked for. If that has to do with, like, taking the group over to Norgarin, terrified. Really not calm about that in any way at all. Very nervous. Lots of pressure. Yeah, not feeling too hot on that. As far as the way we left Cordovan, a little bit nervous because we took a whole bunch of people with us. Hopefully, if something happens, they'll be able to keep themselves safe. I should mention that, like, you know, she probably is going to be using the ring of sending, like, every night to be like, hey, everything okay? You know, make sure you're still alive. Yeah, especially after sending the letters and our team was like, seems a little bold. She doesn't care about herself. That's the thing. It's like if people come for her or whatever, but if they come for Vitaly, she will feel a bit bad. But
Yeah, you and Kadiak endangering everybody all the time.
no, things are fine.
So bad news for you. Cordovan's gone. Just gonna tell you that. Patrick has burned it to the ground and already destroyed it.
Yeah.
It got smashed when we left. Know why? Because we failed the ritual, and he said bad crap was gonna happen if, you know, we failed, and now Podara's probably, like, on steroids. Cordovan's gone. She's
Yeah.
just lost everything from now on. Sorry about
Just
that.
like it just a sinkhole opened and now
If Cordovan gets attacked and destroyed and Vitaly killed while we're gone, Morphus had better watch his dragon butt because she's already pretty PO'd it.
Oh,
This
shit.
angry, this angry, you know, 5th level fighter is gonna
We're level 6 now, excuse me.
level fighter. You come at me, bro.
Let's go fight a god. That's on our list of things to do today.
We gotta get to level 20 first when we have god level power.
Maybe he's just a really piddly god.
That's why he's not dead, he's asleep.
Oh, people are really
So-
easy to kill when they're asleep.
What?
just coup de
Coup de
I don't
grace.
want to say
No,
coup
Lydia
de
doesn't
grace.
believe in coup de grace. We established that last Saturday. So while we're talking about Norseans and raiding and stuff, this is our second to last question, and at this point, I'm kind of struggling to string them all together. Ian, so going back in time, your backstory indicates you worked against the Norsean raiders. How did Piotr feel when he initially discovered he'd be working with Kadiak? Like, when you woke up in that cave and was like, look, there's one of the people I've been fighting my whole life as a professional.
He like there was a very long time where Piotr was like, this is a dream, right? Like, this is, I don't know what's happening. And so there was kind of that like section for Piotr. And then there was like, by the time that kind of had faded, he was used to everyone around him. Though he is kind of suspicious of Kadiak in general. Less so as time goes on, and Kadiak kind of proves that at least he's on their side, probably, question mark. But suspicious, but like through the grace of circumstance, he's just like, well, we've got a job to do. We're gonna do it, and then I'm gonna slash in the meantime figure out some other things that are on my mind. So Piotr, he doesn't really care for the fact that Kadiak doesn't really seem repentant of his past. It's just like, well, I'm a raider, but I hate Padara because she's
Raider too.
Yeah, it's like Piotr's like, oh, you're all the same, but you're helping me kill that one, so I don't care. And in his line of work, that's the kind of thing that he would kind of run it. Not necessarily raiders helping him with other raiders, but just that concept of the enemy of my enemy is my friend is something that Piotr is not unfamiliar with.
Oh, let me get this straight. Artyom distrusts nobles, and he's a priest. The noble distrusts clerics, clergy, and he's a clergyman. And then Piotr distrusts raiders. We got a raider in his party. Now we just need to figure out if the raider distrusts
diplomats.
Diplomats. Dirty politicians.
It's like the what meme am I thinking of? Oh, it's the one from Pirates of the Caribbean where like everybody's got a sword at everybody's. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, and so our last question, and I apologize for running long, is for our dungeon master. So this is actually one that I am curious about too. So will we ever learn who the girl right outside the cave in Polygarode was?
Yes.
Okay.
I hate you.
Affirmative.
You will learn who she is. Will you learn who she is next session? Probably not. Will you learn who she is in like 3 sessions? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't planned
3
that far ahead
is
yet.
relatively close, though.
Is she gonna TPK you?
A month and a half.
I think several of you have suspicions already.
I have no idea. I forgot she existed. I totally thought she was the witch. But the witch turned out to be Maeve.
Mm-hmm.
So you will find out eventually. It's just a
Gotcha.
question of when eventually is.
All right.
Well, yay. Goody!
All right, so that's it for all of our questions. And looking in the chat, it doesn't look like anybody else had any questions.
Pretty mellow.
Do any of you have any questions for one another? Me, Patrick. Lydia's trying.
I have such a
This is your
hard
chance to
time.
get lore dumped without having it feel lore dumpy in campaign.
I love it. Every time Drith like goes on another tangent, I'm like so excited.
About the hide and
I'm
seek
like, I'm
competitions
about
of
to
his
learn more
people.
about the weird world that he grew up in.
It's just a whole bunch of people wandering around naked playing hide and seek with each other. Like, what else do you need to know, right?
What if the nakedness is real, or if Patrick has accepted that, or if he's just chalking that up to trauma?
Or if that's just like Drith's specific like mom and stepdad.
We'll probably find out at some point.
Yeah, during General Artyom's March to the Sea, y'all are naked. You're going there.
Oh my goodness. I have so many things that I want to like ask and talk about, but I know that so many of them will like come out in the game, and I don't want to like overdo it. I also might just ask y'all after we go, like aren't live anymore. Sorry, audience, I love you, but spoilers.
Gotcha. Well, since it seems like we don't have anything left, so thank you everybody who showed up to watch this live. For those of you who end up watching this either on YouTube or listening to it in podcast form, hopefully you have a grand old time in the future as well. So I'm totally gonna steal Patrick and Lydia's thunder here and just do some reminders. They can correct me if I miss anything. So next week on Wednesday, we return to the adventures in the world of Anara. That is our Ready to Roll Embers Beneath the Mountains, same time, 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Eastern. Not this coming Saturday, the 17th, but the 24th will then be our next episode of the show, the mini campaign Lydia is running, Eldritch Shamar, same thing, 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Eastern. And Lydia is hard at work making our podcast. We hear about it quite a bit. And we're really appreciative for the hard work that she's doing. We have the links to those put in our Discord and then also on our Facebook page. And we're putting a lot of hard work into our Facebook page trying to get that to be active. So if you haven't gone and liked that yet, go and search Homebrew Hall. Give it a like, share it with your families. This is a labor of love that we're all doing, and we want to share it with more people, especially if you know anybody who would be interested. We'd love to have them come by, watch our show, listen to the podcast, however they want to participate and enjoy what we are putting out for all of you. Is there anything that I have missed, lady and gentle worms?
Are you doing different? Are you doing a different?
I am hoping to. I am moving a month from today, so I'm trying to make sure my life is in order. However, I am planning on running a one-shot on this channel 2 Fridays from now. I don't have a cast yet, so if you want to play in a one-shot, hit me up, let me know, and if I have a billion people who want to, I'll figure it out. But it's gonna be really weird. Very different than what we usually do here.
My ADD says I should volunteer. But I will say, actually, no, I'll talk to you after.
Yeah, we'll talk about this later. But yeah, just so people in the community know, there are one-shots that we do that aren't reserved to just our typical cast members. You can be in them if you've got a mic and a camera and some love.
And I guess that's essentially what I was going to say. If there's a community member that would that wants to be in the one shot, I don't want to take their spot necessarily because I think that's a cool thing. So keep that in mind.
Lydia a message, Lydia, the stay-at-home DM in the Homebrew Hall Discord, which links on the Facebook page, probably a link down here at the bottom.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
I'll post about it on the Discord tomorrow. So.
The mail says, ooh, pick me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for coming by. This has been Adium. That's my new name. This has been Adium, along with Ladanya, Patrickdom, and Eoter. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Patreon.
Petroleum.
Piotrian.
But yeah, thanks for watching again. I've said that 19,000 times. And enjoy your evening, and we hope to see you next week for Homebrew Halls Ready to Roll. Have a good night.
See you guys.
All right.